All right, so welcome everybody. It's great to have you on again Monday night. And if you are in a noisy place, just feel free to mute yourself. And when at the end, we're going to do some questions and answers or Q&A. So please unmute yourself then so that you can be part of that and you can hear what's going on. So it's great to have new people on every week, and this week we've got Jacob and Elizabeth Gardner.
Hey.
I know we can't see your faces, but next week we can. But Jacob is keen to get started in the business. I think you've been nagging Elizabeth for months, apparently.
Couple months,
Well, we're all here to support you as well and help you get on your journey. And it doesn't really matter what age you are. If you're driven for a goal, then anything is possible. So well done and welcome.
Thanks so much.
I think Melinda's has come on. Anyway, what we're going to do tonight is we're actually going to be talking about mindset, and it is actually a really important part of growing your business is mindset and getting it right. So mindset and belief really are the things that drive us along the journey. So, we can have all the skills in the world, but if we don't have the right mindset, it's something massive is missing and don't really ever get the success. And so your belief and your mindset, well, your belief is really the thing that fuels the engine of the whole thing. And unfortunately, we can have all these skills and we can get some work done, but we can actually sabotage ourselves pretty much constantly and continually if we don't get our mindset right. Negative thinking, negative words, impatience, a lack of belief that you can be successful, a lack of belief that people want to listen to you. And I'm listing off, these are the ones that I've been through. So everyone will go through different things that makes it really difficult for you to keep moving forward. But the more that you can deal with these things, hey Marina, how are you? The better it will be for you. So when I first started, I absolutely didn't believe that I could be successful. I just hoped I could, but I had no self-confidence, and I couldn't even public speak. Like, I couldn't get up and speak in front of people. I was so nervous, and I would shake, and I would actually, quite a few times when I had to get up and speak, I'd vomit before I got up. So, and I felt like my tongue was the size of a football inside my mouth, and I stuttered really badly. And I really had to struggle, and I had to train myself, and actually I had other people help me train me to speak slower and slow down. I had Rick Old standing up the back of every meeting that I spoke at, and he would say, like that, like mouth it to me, slow down. And I would just try to remember to breathe in between, and it was just so hard. So the lack of confidence and the lack of self-belief is just part of this journey. And so if you're feeling like you could never do this or you could never do that, you know what, you're in the right place, because this business is about growth. And but we do sabotage ourselves with self-doubt and limiting our belief of how much we're worth and whether people will listen to us. That was another thing I struggled with, is I really struggled with the fact that didn't really think that people wanted to hear what I had to say. And I'm the young, in a big family, and not the old. I was the second, the youngest, and I was called the scatterbrain one when I was a kid. So, they didn't want to hear what I had to say, so I didn't think that people would. And so it's been quite interesting for me to have people actually wanting to hear me. It's been really good for me. So those sort of limitations are just debilitating when you're trying to run a business where you are going to be leading people. Having an expectation that people won't buy, having an expectation that people won't be interested. All these things are mindset issues that you just have to deal with, and you have to stop sabotaging yourself. You are what you as a person and what people buy. It's not new skin per se straight away. It's actually you. So they will agree to meet with you because there's something about you that they actually like, or they feel like they can trust you. Then they will take the next step because of you and who you represent and what they feel from you. So what they feel from you, what they pick up from you, is all the unspoken stuff. So, if you have a really negative mindset, they will pick that up and they won't follow you. If you have a poverty mindset, they won't believe that they can earn anything because that's what they feel from you. So you've got to really be aware that it's not just what you say, it's how you make people feel. And it's the intangible things. But what we can do is we can really examine ourselves and watch what we say and watch what we are thinking and capture it before it becomes too big and stop it. And you have to be self-disciplined at your own mind chatter. And Karen Miller's calls it the itty bitty shitty committee. You know, that little voice inside our head that's telling you that you can't or you won't or you couldn't or you're too young, you're too old, you know, I've heard all this stuff from all of you guys. And it's all what stops you from growing. So tonight's going to be about being the right person to attract the right people. Another thing is to judge it by who do you have in your team that's doing great things. And if you are looking around and thinking, I'm the most intelligent in the room, which is, I think I just picked that up because Kaz put a great post on Facebook the other day saying, if you are the most intelligent person in the room, leave the room. So if you look around your team and you think, you know, that surely someone can do something and they're not, well, maybe you aren't attracting great people because you aren't acting great yet. And I had to learn that too. It took me a long time to change the way I thought and the way I behaved to attract better people. But then I began to, and it was so exciting. I remember Graham Park coming over to the Sunshine Coast. It was quite a few years ago. It was before I had got to Blue Diamond. It was in that 10 months that I was growing. And I asked him to come over to speak at a meeting, and I also asked him to stay on and see some people with me one-on-one. And he said, after a few of those, he said, what's going on? These people are good. Finally, finally you're getting some good ones. And I'm like, I don't know. I've just switched something on. I just changed. And he said, I know you don't have to tell me that. I can see that. So this is what happens. So you have to really look at yourself. So what I'm really excited about tonight is that I've heard so much amazing feedback about our special guest speaker tonight and what he shared on Saturday. So Kurt has been a really good friend, I believe, for me in support and great person to run the business with since he joined back when he was 23 and now he's nearly 30. I got a shock when you said that tonight on that business call. And I remember the first one of the first few meetings I had with Kurt, he actually came up to the Sunshine Coast to meet me, and I just thought that was really amazing. And he walked into my house and he saw a photo of my daughter. And he said, I'm going to marry her. And I said, no, you're not, because you're not a Blue Diamond. So I get to work.
It's taking me a while to get ready.
And she's moved on. She's got up waiting for you.
Fair enough.
But I just love the attitude and the confidence, and I loved how Kurt's always believed that he can do anything. And I think, you know, I look at you, you know, I see posts of your mum, Elizabeth, and I just think, man, she is an amazing woman, because who you are represents what she's taught you. And, you know, to go out and travel the world when you're so young and just do all that, it's incredibly brave and incredibly strong and courageous. And
or stupid. It could be anything.
Yeah, maybe as well. But no, it's the confidence that you actually did it. And I just love that about you, Kurt. And I know that you are definitely on this journey for greatness, and it's just a matter of time. But, you know, you have learnt so much in the last few years in regards to our, you know, personal growth. And so I'm just going to hand it over to you to share with us your insights, and then at the end we're going to have Q&A. So if anything comes up for you guys that you'd like to find out more, talk more about, just write down the questions, because we're going to open up the lines at the end so we can all talk together. So thanks, Kurt. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's really great to have you on, and I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you for having me on here. This is my first time on the Zoom meetings, so it's an honor. Everyone's live, right? Everyone can talk at the same time.
Well, so there's a few that have muted themselves because of the bit noisy areas and stuff, but babies.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Any questions? I'm looking forward to it. First off, I actually have a question for you, Pauline. Just when you were talking about when you were developing your ability with public speaking, because I think this is a skill that as you grow in this business, it becomes a necessity, and it's one of the greatest fears for almost everyone alive, because it's that fear of rejection, I guess, or a fear of rejection in public.
Fear of exposure.
Yeah, and that's terrifying. So I have the exact same experience, or had for a very long time, the exact same experience as you, except it was the other end of my body. But too much, maybe?
Maybe just a little bit too much.
What I wanted to ask. Well, I'm curious about that. Like, vomiting's okay, but no, we can't talk about it. Anyhow. Don't record this, maybe?
It's recorded.
Pauline, my question was, when you were asking people for feedback and like Rick was at the back of the room telling you to slow things down, how did you prepare yourself to be open to receive that feedback? Because not a lot of people are aware enough that they suck at something in order to like maybe
no,
ask
I
for
was
it and
very
receive
aware
it.
that I sucked at that. I was not delusional at all.
Okay. So it was just the pain of getting up again and not doing a good job.
It was Don McMillan used to ring me every month, and I used to go, no, as soon as he rang me, no. And he'd say, Lindsay, you're up. I'm like, doing what? He goes, whatever you want. It was torturous. So I used to hate him ringing me. Oh, yeah, no. So it was being very aware that I really wasn't good at it, and I grew up as a stutterer. I never spoke. I stuttered all my life, so it was not like it was an easy thing to do this. And I had to make myself consciously think about every single word I was saying and breathing at the same time. That was really scary.
That's a lot to handle.
It's a lot to do at once, yeah. So so it took a long time, but what I actually realized I needed to do, and this is maybe a tip for people, is that I realized that I needed to make eye contact with people and look for the response. Because people do respond to you when they're getting things. When you're saying something that makes sense to them, they go, like they nod or they smile and in a room there might be, out of 100, there might be 3 or 4 that are doing that, like nodding and smiling and interacting with you. So I would just look at them. I'd find them in the crowd and I'd just look at them and I'd speak just to them. So as a tip for you, when we are in meetings, give the speaker eye contact and nod and smile, because if you're getting something, because they'll give you more. And so I used to look for that. And actually, Murray Smith is a preacher, been around preaching for years. So you would know all that. I know you mentioned Murray, but there must be some tricks and tips that you've learned over the years of speaking in front of crowds from your heart. And that was the other thing for me, is I had to speak from my heart. It wasn't head stuff. It had to come from here. I had to really believe it, and I had to really feel it to share it. So Murray, do you have anything you want to say about it before I kick?
Yeah, well, started how you did. You vomit first. It's just fear. It's just everyone. If you haven't ever spoken publicly, it's just fear. The same as people have fear about doing the business or whatever else.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that overcomes fear is confidence. So you were coached a little bit, but if you don't know how to do it, find someone to coach you or talk to you. But it's confidence is what overcomes fear, and you just gradually get better and better and better.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to it, but confidence is a big thing. Learn how to do it. Find out how to do it.
And one of the just on the coaching and being coached, is one of the things that I was told was speak from your heart, and you'll touch people in their heart. And so I stopped following. I just began to think, really focus on that. What can I share today that's going to actually impact someone and make a difference to them? So that's how I started to get more confident. So,
I asked that question because it's exactly, I could relate to it. It's exactly the same as me. It was my greatest fear. And it's actually how I started the mindset presentation, because when you asked me to speak about that topic, I was thinking, well, all right, what's a good story that I could use? Because I feel like stories are our greatest tool in this business for training, for recruiting, for everything. If you wrap it up in a story, it's the best way to present information to people and get it in there.
Yeah.
So I was looking for a story, and I thought, well, I remember I was attending a lot of seminars early on because it was such an immense fear for me just speaking in public and even speaking on the phone. I was terrible on the phone. Like the thought of doing something like this 6 years ago was insanity. Not the technology side of it, but the actual just doing this. So every single person that's on here is like already way better than where I was back then. So it's, and what it was I heard this guy speak, Benjamin Harvey. I believe it was him who said it. And he was describing the experience of excitement. So what do you feel in your body when you're excited? Well, you get maybe your hands are sweaty, you're getting hot, your heart's beating rapidly, you might go red in the cheeks or red in other parts, and you're feeling a little excited or uneasy in your stomach. That's nerves. But he said, you know, that's also the description for orgasm. So he's like, that is right there. Whenever I'm feeling nervous, whenever I'm feeling nervous, I just think those two things, like I could just put a different word on it. And one makes me very excited and the other makes me terrified. And it's the exact same experience.
Mind boggles, I'm sorry.
So when I heard that idea, it's funny and it makes you laugh.
That's funny.
Next time you're nervous, seriously think about that. I just use the word excited. That's like more politically correct than just going, oh, I'm orgasmic. But,
Wow.
it's the same. It's the same response.
Saturday.
Anyhow, so that basically led me to change the way that I was communicating with people, and I realized that was just a mindset change. You know, I'm totally comfortable speaking today. It's not because I'm speaking any differently to 6 years ago. In fact, I've been speaking pretty much the same since I learned to speak, maybe with the addition of a few extra words. So it's not the actual physical stuff. It's not the things. It's the mind that changed. And that's what I find is really interesting. It reminded me of this story of this father who has two sons. And you guys may have heard this story before. It's a great one. The sons are twins. And although they look identical, they have two polar opposites kind of ways of viewing the world. So one is super negative. And one is just like, you know, he takes an amazing opportunity and he transforms it into a disaster. And the other one is super positive. So he takes disasters and somehow transforms them into opportunities, the exact same circumstances and situations. So the father was really fascinated by this, how they were so different, and he decided that he would run a little experiment to see if he could get them to change the way they viewed the world. And so their birthday was coming up, and for one of the sons, he went out and he purchased the most expensive gifts he could find. And he filled that son's room with these luxurious, beautiful gifts, what every kid wanted, basically. For the other son, he went out to the stables and he got a shovel and he piled up a whole lot of horse dung. And then he took that to the son's room and dumped it on the floor, a big steaming pile. And then he said, now we'll see how they respond to this. So he woke up the next day and he went into the room of the kid that had all the gifts. And this kid is standing amongst all these amazing gifts and he's distraught. He's in like an anxious frenzy. And he's just going, oh my God, what am I going to do, Dad? All my friends are going to be jealous. I've got all these presents. Like, I've got to unwrap it. It's going to create such a mess. Where are we going to keep all these things? I mean, I've got to learn how to use this. Do I even have time for that? I've got to go to school, Dad. Don't you realize that? All this sort of stuff. And the father walks out of the room thinking, Jesus, that's an expensive lesson, that you can't change negative people. And that's an important lesson for us.
Yeah.
So as he's walking out, he's thinking, I wonder how the other son's going. And he bumps into that son. And that son's in his own kind of frantic, excited panic. And he's running around the house. And he goes, Dad, you won't believe what I got for my birthday. And the dad knows full well what he got for his birthday. I mean, he gave it to him. He's like, what did you get? The son goes, I got a horse. I can't find it, but it's definitely been in my room. What I love about that story is that it's an entertaining way of showing that everything that we do in our life has to do with how we view it, not what is happening to us. Because what happens to us happens to everyone. Like, we all have shitty stuff happening in our life, every single person. It's how we view that situation or that circumstance that has the potential to change it. And it can turn it into an opportunity, or it can turn it into a disaster. I mean, we've all seen probably documentaries and episodes where there's incredibly wealthy people or incredibly fortunate kids to wealthy families, and their lives are just drama and chaos, and they're not appreciating anything. And then you can see the other side of it, where some incredibly poor kids are grateful and appreciating everything. So it's all about how you look at something. It's not the actual thing. Because
a good question would be, how can we change our perspective? Like that kid that got the horse stung, it's amazing, but how can we change our perspective and see things differently? Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's a good question. I never got to get into this on the weekend, so I'm glad we can get into it here. I think there's a couple of ways. Number one is the language that we use. We can open up new possibilities. I'll get into that in a second. But one of the most important ways, in my opinion, is the power of associations. So if we are around a lot of people who are negative, that's just normal. We're not being negative, we're being realistic, or whatever else we're going to justify it with. It's only once you take yourself out of your day-to-day circumstances and you put yourself somewhere new that you realize, hold on, that's not normal. That's normal for those people or for that place. But there is no normal, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. A good way of demonstrating this is I was in a restaurant in Sydney, and they've got all these photos on the wall of lifesavers over the years. And one of the photos were all these men in full-on ladies' bathing suits, like full body kind of a onesie type thing that you would only ever see on a woman today. And yet that was totally normal back then.
Yeah.
So the point is that normal, it's really contextual. Like, it depends on who you're around, the time that you're in, the place that you're in, the culture that you're in, the language that you use. So if there's like one really big thing that you can do to change your mindset on kind of autopilot, is to change your associations. So ditch the negative people. And the first step to that is awareness. Like, it's only once you're attending things like this, once you're coming up against a roadblock a lot and you're getting frustrated, that's when there's pain, it's really valuable for that reason, because it can jolt you into awareness. So in regards to the other aspect, there's Simon Sinek. I'm assuming everyone knows him. If you don't, just Google him. He's phenomenal for this business. He believes that, well, it's not really important what he believes, but he was doing this experiment to showcase marketing. And he found a homeless woman who was willing to participate in this experiment. And she was begging on the streets about 8 hours a day, making $20 to $30. So like, that's a really tough life. And on her sign, she had what most homeless people will have on their sign. It's, they'll list off the details, the facts, the figures, which is I'm broke, I'm sick, I have people dependent on me, or an animal, or whatever. I'm in a really bad luck situation, etc. And it's not that is untrue. That's totally true. I believe people who are begging on the street, because that's a really hard thing to do. But it's not effective. So what Simon Sinek did to demonstrate this marketing technique was he just changed her sign. And he said, he wrote on her sign, "If you only donate once a month, please think of me next time." And so that reaches in and touches the heart. So it comes back to what you're talking about. When you're talking, speaking from the heart, and that people connect to that. And it's the same when you're marketing something. If you market from the heart, you're going to connect to some feeling, which actually makes the decision process, not the head. We just justify things with the head. So what was interesting about this for the mindset side of things is that she made $40 in 2 hours. Her normal day is 8 hours, $20, $30, around that. So she made double what she would normally make in a quarter of the time. What was fascinating is she got up and left after that. So the thing that's interesting there is her mindset was that she had this narrative going on in her head that she was a $20 to $30 a day person. That's all she needed to survive. And the irony of this is that if she had have sat longer and done her normal 8 hours, she could have made some substantial change in her circumstances. And so the point of this story is that we are usually the problem. Like, we are our own saboteur. What's that word? We sabotage ourselves.
Yeah.
So I haven't got English perfect yet, but so what Simon Sinek says in this circumstance is that you can change that by you can change that story that you have in your mind by putting an infinite word on the end, like an open-ended word. Something like saying, I'm not team elite. So I'm Kurt Provost and I'm not a team elite, right? That's closing the door. I never will be team elite if I leave it at that full stop. Instead, I could say, I'm Kurt Provost and I'm not team elite yet. So that's like an open-ended word. It gives hope. It gives possibilities. It gives you a place to go. It gives your mind a place to go. So you could say, I'm really bad at sales. Okay, you suck at sales. It's just never going to change. That's your mindset. It's set. Or you could say, I'm bad at sales for now. And that implies that you're doing something about it, that you're changing it. And that's totally different mindset. That's going to open up opportunities to you. So if we come back to the two sons, the negative one would be someone that's saying things like, oh, I can't do that, or I can't afford this. Well, the positive son would be saying things like, how can I afford this? What can I do to make that happen? Like, asking better questions of yourself is a really powerful way of changing that mindset.
That's really good.
Anything else?
That's really, really good. I really love that. Adding one word or changing the sentence or the meaning by just adding a open-ended or as you call it, infinite word. Amazing changes. So, okay, so some of the things that I hear from the team are, it just doesn't work for me. So to be able to get them to change the way they're speaking, so it's just not working yet.
Yeah, that's a really good example. Yet.
Yet. Or no one, I mean, it's some of the things people say are really quite like full on. No one is buying anything these days. So how can we get that, like words like that? How can we change sentences like that?
No one is buying anything these days. Well, for one, that's a lie, because it's more accurate to say no one's buying anything these days from you. Like, New Skin's a $2 billion company, like $2.5 billion. They're buying product.
So what can we do about you?
Yeah, it's like, so obviously we're going to change something there. And I guess that comes back to, how do you change anything? Well, you've got to be aware of it first. And so if people are, I'm really, really fortunate because Yelena is my upline, and English isn't her first language. So if English isn't your first language, you are blessed. Like, not only do you have this other world that you're open to, or multiple worlds, but you also have a different perspective on the words that you use. If English is your native language and you just don't even think about the words that come out of your mouth, that's a disadvantage. Get around people who can point it out, because we are like, words are like magic. We can curse ourselves into a certain life, or we can build ourselves up with the words that we choose. So that person who's saying, no one's buying anything, well, that's like a spell that he's just putting on themselves. It's making their belief, if that makes sense.
It's part of the sabotage system.
Yeah.
And also, when you think about it, it's an excuse as to why they're failing. It's not my fault, it's everyone else's fault, they're not buying.
Exactly. It's like a defeated person. Anyone who says that, I'm not for like delusional optimism, where you're blindly beating your head against a wall saying everything's fine, and like the house is on fire. That's not what this is about. It's about being able to look at a situation and see it for what it actually is, and realize that you're deciding whether it's good or bad. And that power is yours and yours alone. I love for this, something that helps you is philosophy. I think, philosophy is, whether it's like religious philosophy or well, actually all philosophy is kind of religious, but I love Stoicism. So it's like kind of the Taoist from Greece and Italy. It's like similar version to Taoism. And they just talk about that, you know, bad stuff is going to happen. That's just life. But you always have the ultimate choice with how you handle that. And so it can mean that things don't bother you. You're just like, okay, all right, now what next? Let's change. Let's look for those opportunities. Whereas if you're just dwelling on it, that's setting your mind. Again, like mindset, it's setting it to a certain standard that it's just going to see that. I'm waffling a bit, sorry.
No, it's good. I think that we might just get some more questions and maybe some scenarios that anyone would like to share or ask a question about, just to see if there's a way to think about it or deal with it differently. Does anyone want to be brave and bring something up?
I won't say you're the problem. Straight away.
Well, we all are. You know, we all are in the same boat. We are all the ones that sabotage our business. And
actually, Pauline, on that point, you're totally 100% correct there. It's like when you think about Simon Sinek's homeless woman. So she left and she sabotaged herself. She put a ceiling on what she could earn per day, and when she went over that ceiling, she checked out. I'm done. We do that every single day. I do that. I've done that for 6 years in this business. It's like put a ceiling on a business that is infinite. It has no ceiling. Literally, you can create whatever you want. The only ceiling that I'd say is on this business is, 7 billion people. And that's not a ceiling that you ever need to worry about.
Yeah. It is very true, actually. And so you've got to look at, one way to look at that is look at what have you ever earned in the past so that will actually allow your brain to think, okay, well, that's acceptable. And that will probably be where you get to until you deal with your own mindset. So, you know, as you're growing a business and the potential is to grow it fast, if you have earned money before, and this is why they say millionaires who go bankrupt become millionaires again, because they already know they can. It's just a matter of dealing with the stuff that stopped them or, you know, that created the problem, dealing with more for themselves, but they get back to being millionaires again. But people who have never been a millionaire and never been wealthy and earn and win a lotto, they become broke again within 2 years. So you go back to what you're used to. So if you have never been a big income earner, then you actually need to start to expand your brain about what you're worth, because otherwise you will get stuck at what you think is acceptable pay for you. And it's interesting because I've noticed that actually in amongst leaders and different ones, and looked at myself and what we earn. Sometimes you get stuck at something that we think's reasonable and right for us. So we put that limitation on ourselves. So I can't remember why I was talking about that, but I was talking about it for a reason.
You know, I've been doing this project recently, Tribe of Leaders, where I've been interviewing New Skin leaders who have earned or made over $1 million with New Skin, and there's a lot out there. There's like 1,500 of them or something. So I've been working my way through it, and what's interesting now is I'm seeing this trend that they just have a very different ceiling to most of us. Like they have a ceiling that's much, much higher, and that's what's cool about this is there's no right or wrong ceiling. Like if you're happy with your ceiling, sweet. As long as you acknowledge that there's a ceiling there. I think the danger is when people don't realize they're banging against a ceiling that they set for themselves and blaming everything else. But it all comes back to here. But in regards to that, like that ceiling, do you want me to tell the story of Monty Schumacher? Like an example of a mindset, I guess, for this business?
Yeah, perfect.
So a lot of you guys probably have heard of Monty Schumacher, and many of you won't have. He's our upline. Yeah, we're in his team. up line. So he's 14 months away from making his 20th million. So he's doing fairly well with it. And he started as like a 22-year-old guy who knew nothing about skincare. And this was back when it was like 20 products and it was mainly hair stuff that they were talking about. So he was going in just cold to beauty salons and walking in and just going, hey, have you got a minute? I've got something that's going to make you rich. And he was getting shut down so hard, like just no after no after no. And eventually he did what we all do at some point in our business, and I've just been like a repeat offender, is he tried to find a shortcut. And the truth is that there aren't really any shortcuts. The shortcut is like the long way round. So what he decided to do is he would buy a list of contacts, and then he would invite all those people, thousands of people, to one single event, one single business presentation to end all business presentations, like the one that would make him the #1 earner in Nu Skin overnight. And so he borrowed money off his parents to buy this list. There were several thousand names on this list, and he bought it for Southern California. So a list, for those who don't know, is just a contact details, randomly. And so he went to LA, flew to LA on that borrowed money, got in a taxi and said, take me to the fanciest hotel in Hollywood. And got to that hotel and then said, show me your best function room. They took him to the grand ballroom, which had 3 massive chandeliers the size of small cars. So just imagine this like red velvet theater style place that fits 1,500 seats, like 1,500 people. What's fascinating about Monty is that he's young and naive and just delusionally optimistic. And he walks into this place, he's like in awe of it, but goes, oh, it's probably going to be too small, because he's inviting thousands of people. So he thinks they're all going to come somehow. So what happens is he books it and he flies back to Arizona, where he's sleeping on his parents' couch, still borrowing money off them. And he gets to work. Back in those days, he was handwriting letters and individually sending the invitations out to everyone. So it takes him a couple of months. He flies to LA and he's getting the ballroom ready for the big event. And it starts at 7 p.m. Now he's set up like these beautiful tables. He's super proud. He turns around and looks out over all these seats, and he just imagines it being filled with people. And he's like, I'm going to make so much money tonight. 7 o'clock comes and there's no one there. So he's scratching his head a bit. And then he said, well, it is LA, it is Hollywood. So, people are fashionably late here. They'll be here in like 10, 15 minutes. Totally normal. I should have expected that. So 10, 15 minutes passes, no one's there. He starts to worry a little bit. He starts to break out in a bit of a sweat. 7:30 comes along, and the thought occurs to him that maybe he wrote the wrong address on the invitations. Maybe everyone's gone to the wrong place, and he's just left standing here. As the time progresses and still no one shows up, at 8 o'clock, it finally dawns on him that he has failed. And I just want you to imagine this for a moment. You have no money. You've invested all the money that you have plus money that you don't have into making this moment work. Like, it all has to come together. And you expect this moment to make you a millionaire, like to make you incredibly wealthy, just like that. And you've got so much riding on it. You put so much effort into it. And then in that moment, you're standing out looking over 1,500 empty seats, and you realize that you've failed on a scale that probably has never been done in Nu Skin before. I mean, that's hard stuff to handle. But in that moment, what's interesting is 2 people walked in the back door, 2 women, and they yelled out, "Is this the Nu Skin thing?" And Monty's thinking in his head, he's like, "Oh God, just tell him, nah, you're too late. He's already left. I'm packing things up." But what's interesting, he said, I had to put my pride aside and go and present to them, and they actually signed up. So he got 2 sign-ups. But after that evening, I asked him, I said, how did you handle that? Because that level of failure is unlike anything else I've heard of in this business. Like, there'll be people on this call who have had guests not show up, who have gone to meetings and there's been no one there. Or someone who said they would do something and they didn't do it. Like, I've been that person for you, Pauline. Like I said, I'll be Blue Diamond within a year. I didn't do it. And you have a choice in all of these moments, how you handle it. So what I love about Monty is he said, I had 2 choices. Number 1, I could feel sorry for myself and use this as the reason to quit. And that's what most people do. That's 99% of the population would choose that option. Or the second option is I could get angry at this and use it as the reason to succeed. Like his words were, "This will not be my legacy." It's ironic because it kind of is his legacy because I'm sharing his story right now, but it's a positive legacy and he's got the money in the bank to prove it. It's
But he had to think like that before he got the money in the bank.
Exactly. That's the key right there. It's the two sons. He thought like one or the other. We have a choice in every moment.
So how can we relate this to, say, a new distributor or newish, and they are building a business, and then everyone that they know laughs at them or ridicules them or proves them that they're doing, tries to prove to them that they're doing a pyramid, or says no and won't buy anything even when they have good results. So how can new people on the Zoom here tonight, and those watching it, how can they use that sort of mindset to think through that?
It's a brilliant question, and I think Sean Brady answers it best. So another 20 million circle on it comes down to one of the best ways to change your mindset is to change your belief. And you don't need faith in this business, because faith implies that something hasn't been done before. It's like you need faith to fly or to walk off, into the air. But in order to build this business, you just need belief that it will work for you. And the beauty of this business is that there are so many successful people in it. Like I'm spoiled for choice for people to interview, and it's just having access to their stories. It's kind of delving yourself within Nu Skin into the products, using them religiously, like just becoming the product of the product. Because when you have the belief around the product, you're rock solid there. And no one can tell you otherwise, because you've got your own results. You've got your own. And the other thing is when you're doing demonstrations, so this is kind of like the second way, is activity. Because when you are doing a lot of demonstrations, you start to see these results and you start to get customers and they get their results. And that like builds, it's layer upon layer of belief. But I would say the most important of all are events. And this is why like we just bring events down people's throats, is because you come to events and you have access to stories, you have access to other people that you connect with on a whole new level that gives you that belief. I mean, I'm 6 years in this business and I only had 1 year away totally where I didn't attend a single event. But the 5 years in between, I've attended as many events as I possibly could, and that's almost all of them. So it instills that belief within you. The reason why I brought up Sean Brady is because prior to doing the business, he got a private investigator to research the company, to like really go in, and this guy was ex-FBI. So he went through all the dirt to try and find out if this, because you see, Sean was going to bring Nu Skin to Australia, and he wanted to be sure that it was going to be around for the next 30, 40, 50 years. He didn't want it to just fall over in 5 years' time like most network marketing companies do. He took the products to a chemist and got them to check out the ingredients, check out how everything's going, whether or not it's effective. He got this level of belief that I think is deeper than anyone else I've ever met, that's for sure, in regards to investigation. So he did his due diligence. And as such, he was unshakable. He had incredible things happen that, like in the negative sense, and he still used it to make 20 million from this business. Like he had thousands of people quit his team at one time, and then 1,500 in another place. Like it's just insane. And he still used those experiences because he had such solid belief. So getting on these calls, being on as many, like really kind of soaking yourself in it, I feel like that's the best way to get that belief.
Yeah. So I think you're spot on with sort of all the levels, all the different types of belief we have to have in the products and the business. But the one key one that I think is the most important is the belief in yourself. That
I missed that one.
You will be. No, you didn't. You did mention it. But belief that you can do this, and belief that you will be successful. No matter what people say to you, you can do it. You are going to do it with or without them. And I think I was saying to someone in the weekend in Sydney, I was saying you actually have to hold the outcome really lightly. Whatever happens is their choice. Your job is to be the messenger. You are going to be successful whether they say yes or no. It doesn't matter. You're going to find enough people to be successful with or without them. And if you have that attitude, then it doesn't put any pressure on them, and you can just keep moving forward to talk to someone else. Because it is a relationship business, but it's also number of relationships business. How many relationships you build and how many people you talk to is just as vital as the relationships that you build. So holding the outcome and holding the result emotionally loosely, not getting entangled emotionally with what they say. I remember Alison saying to me constantly, some will, some won't, so what, somewhere, someone's waiting, the SWs. So, you just got to go, so what, some will, some won't, somewhere, someone's waiting. So just get out and find that one that's waiting. So the SWs is what made me keep moving forward without having any emotional entanglement with what their answer was. So some will say yes and some won't, and there'll be no explanation for it, and there's nothing you've done wrong, but you are still going to be successful. So that's where your belief has to be.
I have one last story on that point, if we've got time for it.
Yeah,
it's a quick one. So it comes back to exactly what you were just saying. It's like if you have belief in yourself, if you don't have the belief in yourself, then you're going to be like that homeless woman who checks out after, like, he's not breaking through. He's not sitting there and doing enough time at things. And the best example of that, Sean was actually giving an example of this. He said he had a team member in Japan who had been working 4 years. He was making a few thousand a month. He was laying the foundation of his business. And he was frustrated because he was just like, I'm not getting anywhere. That's the way he felt. And he was having this conversation with Sean Brady, and Sean said, just don't quit. Like, don't quit. You've got some good people. You've put in the foundation, and someone else is going to profit from that if you quit. And the guy quit. And 9 months later, he sold that. By the way, he sold his business for 30 grand. 9 months later, that business was making $100,000 a month because it exploded. And he didn't get a cent. He got 30 grand. He sold that out. And he said, you're planting seeds. You're planting seeds, and they're going to grow at different times, and you've been watering them as well. And what he did is just like sell the garden before it produced fruit.
Yeah.
But
wow.
Amazing.
Don't ever want to be
amazing.
like that
No.
guy. I guess
No.
Oh, that's the other thing too, is that you just don't know what your business is going to look like. If you could just see into the future and see your team in 5 or 10 years' time, you will be astonished. So, you actually need to go there in your head and go, my team is going to be filled with these amazing leaders and entrepreneurs. And I say this because this is what I've experienced. 10 years ago, I didn't think that I would have a team like I have, but man, it's amazing. And it's, what did I do to deserve it? Well, I just kept sowing the seeds and just kept talking, and I just did keep working on my mindset and the anybody shitty committee in my head, and the things that I was saying to myself, and the belief that I had that I would be successful anyway. And so what I would encourage you all is to take everything that Kurt said. I hope you took lots of notes, and work on your belief, and work on, and be the second son who thought he had a pony and was madly looking for it. I love that boy. I just think he's amazing. And we all need to be looking for our pony because he's there, because he's evidence. And the evidence will poo. It's like, wow. It's amazing. So, just think about that story every day, and, everyone can do this. So, is there any other questions or any other comments that anyone would like to ask or make before that we start to close off?
I'd just like to thank Kurt for doing that tribe of leaders. It's absolutely amazing. I listen to them all the time, and I just love it. Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you. I love hearing feedback like that. It makes me want to keep going.
Yeah, do keep going. That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Anyone else?
I just want to say the other day I had like a mindset aha moment. As most of you know, I'm a makeup artist, and the other day I just put on a post about the power lips because obviously I'm obsessed with them, and I've gone through so many different lipsticks and that I've used on clients, and nothing comes against with power lips. So the other day I just posted up a power lips one, and then something just hit me. My mindset just changed. I'm like, you know what? I'm a makeup artist here. People want to hear my feedback. People come to me, but it was more of a confidence thing that I found hard to do. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to overcome this. So I started going through my friends list on my Facebook, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to tag this person. I reckon this color is going to look amazing on you. Oh my gosh. And I'd go through their profile photos and have a look at what color would actually match who, and you know all that sort of thing. And then because when I used to do the power lips, I only got like, you know, one order here or there, whereas this time I got 10 in one post from just like, and then I think they call it spearfishing, and then I went into my my likes, and then I'd started tagging them because I'm like, they've obviously liked my post for a reason, and then I started tagging them. So it's a total like mindset thing, because before I was blown away. So,
That's great.
yeah.
Well done.
Growing confidence is awesome, and it will just get better and better from there.
Yeah.
You know what's fascinating about that is that those sales or potential sales were always there. It's like that's our mindset again. It's like we accept those one or two rather than going and taking the 10 or 20 or whatever. Like it's all what's possible for us, what we believe to be possible.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like shifting your mindset to know that it is possible. And like people were ordering two at a time or one at a time, and then there was another one that I just want the whole lot, but I'm going to just start with one. I was just like, oh my God, okay.
Sold.
Yeah, I was so happy.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kurt, for giving us your time tonight. It's great to have you on, and your team that are on here would be appreciating that very much. So it's awesome. Thanks everyone for jumping on and joining in again, and get this recording up by tomorrow morning. And have a really good night. Thanks everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Good night.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you, Bradley.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.